question for this evening, which is, the other day you mentioned intuition. How can intuition be explained in terms of the 5 khandhas? You all know what the 5 khandhas are. There is the body. This is just one of the Buddhist ways of teaching. The body, number 1. Number 2, the thing we call Vedana, which is that part of every sensory experience which is pleasure or painful or somewhere in between, which is beautiful, fragrant or smelly. So the positive and negative effect of every one of the 6 sense bases. And number 3 is your perception, just the way you interpret the phenomena of the world. And number 4 is, they call them sankharas, but the main one of that is will. It's also thought and other emotions as well. The last one is consciousnesses. Not consciousness, because there's 6 different types of consciousnesses, not just one, and they're totally different, which is fascinating. So that's the 5 khandhas, and intuition. Where would that come in? And it's very lovely in those 5 khandhas. If it doesn't fit anywhere else, it always fits in the Sankhara khandha. So that's, the repository of everything else. So that would be in the Sankharas. How does it relate to mindfulness? It doesn't relate to mindfulness at all. An intuition comes up and then you're mindful of it. And that's all it is. So don't try and confuse it with mindfulness. In Buddhist psychological theory, are there any parallels to the Western concepts of the conscious and subconscious and unconscious and pre-conscious and post-conscious and unconscious? I don't know. But Buddhist psychological theory, any parallels, intuition, conscious, subconscious, unconscious? No, not really. It's almost like the closest intuition to intuition is insight. Because the real intuition is pre-verbal. We don't think it through. Because all the thinking, backwards and forwards, we call that, there's a word for that in Buddhist psychology called papancha, proliferation. Goes on and on and on and on and on. Which is why the Venerable Gunaratana, Bhante Ji, he calls himself, that's because Gunaratana is a long name. That's why my full name is Brahmawangso, so we call it Brahm. But please, when you call my name Brahm, please enunciate the M at the end. Otherwise, it becomes Ajahn female underwear. Brahm, please. So, it's that papancha, and Venerable Gunaratana, he gave a simile for the sankhara, especially the will bit, because in the Buddhist simile, he compared it to like a banana tree. And if a banana tree, it's just leaves wrapped around each other, there's no wood inside, there's no pith. It's not like a real tree. Even though it stands up, it looks like a tree, but there's no wood inside, it's all leaf wrapped around each other. That's a banana or plantain tree. But because not many people in the West know about banana trees, bananas don't grow on trees, they come from supermarket. So we use something which is much more closer to your daily life, and that's the onion. Because an onion is the same, it's just all like leaves. And it's just nothing inside. It's just you peel an onion, you peel it, and there's nothing left inside. It's just leaves. So he said the will, the sankhara, even intuition, thoughts, they are just like an onion. You peel them and there's nothing inside. But as you go into them, they make you cry, which I really like that. It's true, that's what. But the best part, he said, onion. If you look at the word O-N-I-O-N, it goes on and on with an I in the middle. And that's your thought. Where there's an I, we keep thinking. It goes on and on and on. That's called papancha. And intuition sometimes stops that. Stops all the thinking and just sees and knows. It's very much, what is this bottle of water? When you stop thinking about it, you can actually see it. So that's what it's like a form of insight. The intuition, that's where it comes from. So that's where that is. How do you know for sure, after an experience of no self, after jhana, that there are only a few rebirths left? You don't know for sure. Just wait and see. And if it's only 7 rebirths and that's it, then you know, oh, it's right, I was a stream winner. Because this is a difficulty. These days, everybody has heard about jhana, so everybody wants jhana. Lots of people have heard about stream winning, especially in Sri Lanka. So they have a word for it in Sri Lanka called Sowan. Everybody wants to be a Sowan now. So usually what happens, in your life, you sort of, you go and get married, you have kids, you get the house, you do all of that and get, well settled in life. And once you've done that, once you've done the spiritual material, once you've done the worldly material, then you go to the spiritual materialism. What's the next thing I'm supposed to do? You go and become a Sowan. And there was one monk, he was a Tibetan monk, he made this wonderful comment. This is called spiritual materialism. We've all got the ordinary materialism. That's just Chokum Trungpa, yeah. You all got the ordinary materialism. Who's got the biggest house? Who's got the best jewelry? Who's got the best clothes? Who's got the best car? And people do that. They show off their possessions. And that can even happen in spiritual circles. Who's got the best monastery? Who's got the best retreat center? You can see that spiritual materialism creeping in, but that's really like material spiritualism. But the real spiritual materialism, when we start to go to attainments. So at the end of the retreat, you ask each other, how did you go? And you say, oh, I got nimitta, I got a really good nimitta. And you say, nimittas, I got that on the first day, that's nothing. I got first jhana. Someone said, first jhana? Oh, that's baby stuff. I got second jhana. So, oh, that's nothing. I'm stream winning. You're a stream winner. I'm a non-returner. So be very careful there, because that comes up, in the spiritual life as well. And because of that, sometimes the people get attainments, and they haven't got attainments. They want so much to achieve, they actually fake it. And they convince themselves they've got these things. So what they do, they go around and say, I've had this great experience, I'm a stream winner. They come and see Ajahn Brahm, and I say, no. That's not stream winning. Then they go and see the nuns. And they say, no, that's not stream winning. Then they go and see another monk, and another monk, and another monk. They finally get to one monk, and say, yeah, okay, that could be. He said, yes. See, those Ajahn Brahm, those nuns, they do nothing. But this monk, he's really, really good. Why is he really good? Because he recognizes I'm a stream winner. I've seen that happen. So be very careful. But in one of the suttas, in the Majjhima Nikaya, somebody asked the Buddha, said, all these people, it is in the time of the Buddha, who go around, saying that they're an arahat, non-returner, once-returner, stream winner, are they all true or not? And the Buddha said, some are true, some are false. When I heard that, I thought, wow, that's very powerful, because even in the time of the Buddha, people went around thinking they were enlightened, arahats, stream winners, and not even the Buddha convinced them otherwise. So you have to be really, really careful of that. That is why if you ever do have any attainment, you have to wait for many years. Wait and see what happens. If they come to people like me, then we test you out. For example, if you say you're like a non-returner, then I'll come and say Danya comes up to me and says, she's a non-returner. I'll look at her and say, no way, women can't get that attainment. Impossible, women can't do that. And then I wait to see her reaction. If she gets really angry, what do you mean? Women can do everything. And I say, got you, anger. You try and make people upset and angry to see whether they really are a stream winner or not, or a non-returner. Women can become enlightened, you all know that, but I'm just saying that just to wind you up, to see if you've got any anger left in you. The classic story, it's in the Mindfulness Bliss and Beyond book. There was this monk, and he was in China somewhere, and he decided, he did all his basic training, he really wanted to go for broke. Enlightenment in this life, no messing around, that's the only thing he wanted to do. So he went up to his abbot and said, look, all this chanting, the service and all the duties, I know that has to be done, but I really want to try my best to become enlightened in this life. He said, just very close to the monastery, there's a lake. In the middle of the lake is an island, and it's uninhabited. Can you please give me permission to build a little hut there, a retreat hut? And it's very easy. Can I have the attendant just to row over once a week to give me supplies? And then for the rest of the week I'll stay by myself, just meditating all day, living very simply, with no contact with anybody. I really want to try to get enlightened in this life. And the abbot gave him permission. So he had this perfect opportunity, living in this very, very tranquil island in the middle of a lake. Only once a week the attendant will come over with some simple supplies, just some rice and some beans and a few veggies or something. And he would live very simply, and if he needed anything, he'd just leave a message for the attendant. The attendant would come back the next week with his supplies, like matches or candles or something. And he lived like that for 3 years. You can imagine a 3-year retreat. His meditation got deeper and deeper until he thought he was enlightened. So what should he do next? So when the attendant came the next time, this monk asked for some paper, some ink and a pen. He wanted to write some calligraphy. He wanted to convey to his abbot his attainment. And so 1 week later, this parchment came with this ink and a quill pen. And he meditated very deeply for the next 2 or 3 days. And when his mind was very still and powerful, he wrote in this exquisite Chinese calligraphy the following poem in 4 lines. The diligent monk, alone for 3 years, is no longer moved by the 4 worldly winds. Now the 4 worldly winds, not being moved by them, is just one of the euphemisms, the way we describe full enlightenment. You're not moved anymore. And so when he wrote that down, it was a way of telling his abbot his attainment. So he rolled up the scroll, waited for the attendant to come, gave the scroll to the attendant, and told him to give it to the abbot. And then he relaxed for the next week. He was enlightened, he didn't need to practice anymore. He just started thinking of where he would go next and how he could teach and help all people. 1 week later, the message came back from the abbot. It was a scroll wrapped up. And very excitedly he opened up the scroll. It was his poem, written in this very, very exquisite calligraphy. The sort of calligraphy which should be in a museum. It was so beautiful. But over the calligraphy, the first line, the diligent monk, the abbot had written in a red ballpoint pen the 4 letters F-A-R-T, fart. Alone for 3 years. There was another 4 letters, but this time in capitals, F-A-R-T, another fart. The third line is no longer moved, this time F-A-R-T with an exclamation mark after it. And then the last line, by the 4 worldly winds, this time a big F-A-R-T, triple exclamation mark, and underlined as well in red ballpoint pen. He destroyed its exquisite calligraphy. Not only that, obviously the abbot didn't understand that this was meaning he was enlightened. And so the monk, enraged, managed to catch the attendant before he sort of rode off and said, "Take me in the boat, I'm going to see this, sort out this stupid abbot." And so he went in the boat, got back to the monastery, charged into the room, slammed the scroll on the abbot's desk and said, "Explain yourself, you stupid monk. You can't understand enlightenment when it's in front of your face, and you've destroyed this incredibly beautiful calligraphy. Why?" He was very upset. And that's when the abbot very slowly and calmly stood up, and he unrolled the scroll, and he read out the monk's poem. The diligent monk, alone for 3 years, is no longer moved by the 4 worldly winds. Yet, said the abbot, 4 little farts have blown you clean across the lake. The 4 little farts story. And that is like ancient Buddhist story about what we do when people say they could become enlightened. We try to upset them as much as we possibly can, just to see whether they are enlightened or not. So that's how you know you've had an experience of no self after jhana, that there's only a few rebirths left. That's how you actually know. Just you check to see what defilements are there. The stream is very difficult to understand, even once returner. But non-returner and arahat, full enlightened, they're very easy to understand. Any anger, any fear, that means you are not a non-returner, you're not fully enlightened. Any fear shows you you're not. So that's why we usually use anger, just to test a person out. So please don't try and test me out. Trying to call me an idiot, a fool, stupid old monk. Tell us, how do you know if you have had a stream winner experience, and why don't stream winners go to lower realms? Okay, so again, it's difficult to know if you're a stream winner or not. The standard is that all the self-view is totally abandoned. In other words, you realize you don't exist anymore, that the thing behind the will is just an illusion. This consciousness is not yours. And it also knows, because there's nothing there, you know that so eventually you'll totally vanish and disappear. You go, poof, no longer there. But where do you go? If you ask that question, you're not a stream winner. You don't go anywhere. This is the Buddha's simile, which is a very beautiful one about Nibbana. He said it's just like an oil lamp, but let's use a candle, because we don't really have oil lamps in Australia, but we have candles. Imagine a candle flame. He said that flame depends upon three things to sustain itself: on the wax, on the wick, and the heat. If the wax is all used up, the flame is extinguished. Or if the wick is all burnt down, then the flame is extinguished. Or if someone blows the heat away, then the flame is extinguished. It depends on those three causes. When those three causes come together, the heat, the wax, and the wick, that's the flame. But if one of those is exhausted, where does the flame go? Does it go to the heaven realm, where all good flames go because of their good karma? Does it go to hell if it's been a naughty flame? Where does the flame go? And the Buddha said it doesn't go anywhere, it's extinguished, that's all. It was just three causes coming together. Now one of those causes, or all those causes have gone, it stops, that's all. And that's exactly like you. You depend upon karma, craving, consciousness, things like that. When they stop, you disappear. But where do you go? Just like the flame, you don't go anywhere. You are just depending upon these causes. When the causes stop, so do you. You're finished, gone. You're not annihilated. No longer a flame is not annihilated. It's not that something was there and now it's destroyed. You can't do that. No, what we said a few nights ago, the energy is conserved. It's only if there's nothing there that it can cease. And that's why, as soon as you understand there's nobody here, then cessation, nirvana becomes possible. Understanding that is part of understanding no self. And you're not afraid either. You're not afraid to disappear. Why? Because nothing disappears. Just 5 khandhas, we say, just body, just feeling, just perception, just will, just consciousness doing its thing. Nothing substantial there. So it can all stop. And you're not afraid it stops. Nothing is lost, because nothing was there to begin with. Ta-da. Okay? There we go. And why don't go to lower realms? There's no one there to go to a lower realm. Do Ajahn Brahm. Progress! Hooray! I am only a novice meditator. And as I said before, what does a novice mean? No vice. So you're a no vice meditator. That's a joke, come on. But I have made definite progress in regards to body relaxation. After listening to the sweeping meditation and following that practice a number of times with success, I now find I can skip the sweeping process and give relaxing compassion to my whole body and achieve the same state. Next stop, the mind. Okay, that's sweeping meditation, which I don't know if I really taught. I think I did that in an interview. What the sweeping meditation is you start with your toes. So don't look at your toes. Can you feel your toes right now? Feel a sensation in your toes? Now relax your toes. Will them to relax. Usually you have to use kindness, softness, letting go of any tightness and tension. And if you really are mindful of your toes, you can notice the sensation change. And your toes relax. It's amazing. You can actually relax toes. Now sweep the attention up to your feet. Can you feel sensations around your feet? Now relax your feet with kindness, as if you're massaging them. Then the mindfulness of your feet changes. It moves into more relaxation, more ease, more comfort. The feedback shows you're going in the right direction. With a bit of training, repeated experience, you find you can relax your feet. Then you sweep up the body, your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your bottom, your waist. Not just the skin of your waist, what's inside the waist. You know, maybe the bladder, maybe the bowels. You feel sensations there. You can relax everything. Everything becomes just so at ease. You move up through the body, stage by stage, relaxing parts of the body, one by one. You go right up, the lungs, the heart, up to the chest, to the shoulders, down the arms, stage by stage, back up to the shoulders, the neck, the throat, go to the front of the face to relax all the muscles in the face. And I like to finish off just by going a couple of inches behind my eyes to my brain. Apparently people say you shouldn't be able to feel sensations in the brain, but you can imagine them, and you relax your brain. That's called a sweeping meditation. And you do that many, many, many times, and you find you can relax parts of your body at will. And you become an expert in relaxation. And I told it starting to one lady, she's probably the one who wrote the question, who was finding it difficult to sleep at night. That is brilliant for going to sleep at night. Because a lot of time your anxiety is stored in your body is tense, which is why it won't let you relax enough to go to sleep. So starting from your toes, working up, relaxing parts of the body one by one is a sweeping meditation. And the reason I know this works, because at a conference in Sydney when I was teaching these psychologists, there was one of the Buddhist psychologists came up and said that she had started a company, an internet company called sleeplikeababy.com, teaching that very method, and she was making a fortune because there were so many people with insomnia in the world. And this very simple technique, which didn't take any medication, was very easy to do yourself, was having 100% success, and she was just raking in the cash. I am undermining her business, but she has enough money anyway now. That's how it works. So you can relax so much that you can go to sleep easily. Also, you can relax parts of the body if you have anxiety. There's always a part of your body which corresponds, a feeling in your body which corresponds to an anxious mind. You can focus on that part of the body and just relax it. And then your mind relaxes too. Fear is the same. you relax the body. And then the emotion disappears as well. And you use the same technique to relax your mind. You realize it's just kindness, letting things be, loosening the tensions, stopping all the contractions and pushing and forcing and boxing things in, otherwise known as just letting things be, releasing. No demands, no goals, nothing to go, nowhere to go, no judging. Just like that makes your body tense. You let go of all that stuff, the mind relaxes too. And you have a wonderful time. So that's why I call this meditation relaxing. Relaxing the body, relaxing the mental world, and you relax it really deeply to the jhanas. So that's a sweeping meditation. And it works. And I think Danny's got some tapes on it if you want to sort of get those tapes. You gave them out already? Hey, you see someone's been listening to them. Very good. So we saved you a lot of money by listening to those things. You could go to these psychologists and they charge you a fortune. So please support Jhana Growth because you saved a lot of money. My practice over the last 5 years is just mindfulness of the present moment. Fair enough. How do you know it's 5 years if you're in the present moment? Sorry. I never get quiet enough for the breath to come up on its own. Can I just continue present moment, or should I try to get onto the breath if I want to progress? Thank you for all the wonderful fun every evening. Yeah, just stay in the present moment. The breath will come eventually, but really get into it. Really focus on the present moment. Really get into the present moment. Be really sharp in the present moment. So there's nothing at all. And the next second, the next millisecond doesn't exist for you. The last, the Planck constant moment. I think that's the smallest degree of time in quantum physics. It's 10 to the minus 36 seconds. That doesn't exist for you either. You're totally in this moment. And if you're totally in this moment, then you can't think. Then the breath comes up. Then the limiters come up. Everything comes up. So yeah, you can do present moment awareness, but refine it until it's so sharp and perfect. And that's all you need to do. Okay, here we go. Another sort of epithet for me. It's getting better. Thou most emptiest of emptiness. That's getting better. I wonder what will happen by the end of the retreat. We've got a couple of days to go yet. So the most emptiest of emptiness. Yeah, fun. I can't resist. And I have to know. What's with all the little Buddha statues scattered throughout the bush? The ones made of rocks stacked upon each other. Who's making these for any special reason? Those are the kangaroos. They're Buddhist too. Because we've been teaching here for such a long time, we've converted the kangaroos from being Christians to being Buddhist. You know the difference between a Christian kangaroo and a Buddhist kangaroo? Christian kangaroos put their paws like this. Buddhist kangaroos do this. And they jump mindfully. You can see them jumping, going down, jumping, going down. I don't know who does those. Who cares anyway? Just rocks are rocks. Anyway. Dear Bhante, your Pali translations have transformed my Dharma practice. Thank you. Oh yes, okay. These are right stillness. Yoniso Manasika, a work of the mind, etc. That first one, I really agree with you there because, you know, when for so many years that people translated samadhi as concentration, and that caused so much trouble to Western Buddhists, because it does not mean concentration. Every Pali scholar understands that. Stillness is much, much better. So any monk or teacher who says, oh, it's insight or concentration, it's not concentration, it's stillness. And that makes things very clear. Even last year, during the Rains Retreat, we had Yao San and Jun Pan, these Chinese Americans, came and spent the Rains Retreat here. And every time I mentioned concentration was not the right word and that samadhi was stillness, she got very excited. Eventually she wrote down the Chinese characters for samadhi, because in the Chinese version of the sutras, which is called the Agamas, they're almost exactly the same as the Pali Sutras, but they're in Chinese. And when they had samadhi, they put the Chinese characters, which meant stillness. Stillness and looking on. I think it was Si and Guan. Does that sound all right? Probably not, because I pronounce Chinese with a Cockney accent. So anyway, it means stillness and looking on. So when they wrote samadhi, that's what they said. And so these people said, that's absolutely accurate. According to the Chinese tradition, it was always stillness. It never mean concentration. And stillness gives a much better idea. And it destroys that sort of, some of those teachers, they say, oh, there's such a thing as Khanika samadhi. And Khanika means momentary. And I was saying, how can you have momentary stillness? It's what we call oxymoron. You're either still a long time, or it's not stillness. You can't have momentary stillness. That's not still at all. So stillness is the right word. And also that means to become still. It's obvious, you can't use force. Concentration, yeah, you use force and effort. But to be still, you have to put things down and let them go. And you realize that that is meditation. Just being perfectly still. And you know, it feels right, it is right. That's what meditation's all about, to be still. So anyway, that's great to really push that out into the world, and it changes a lot of people's meditation. Yoni Samadhi Sikha, a work of the mind, which goes back to the source here. What other areas of Dhamma warrant better translation, do you think? P.S. If you would please translate the entirety of Pitaka, that would be great. Otherwise, just this extra thanks. Yeah, great. What's other words which are very good? I don't know. Oh, virya. That's the right effort. It's that idea of right effort is a very fascinating one, because that's part of the Eightfold Path. Aren't you supposed to put some effort in, some virya? And the word virya, it actually comes from another Pali word, from viro, meaning a hero. And that's why virya means like of a hero. It's the sort of thing which heroes do. Now this was a culture where the hero was this soldier who went into battle, who sacrificed themselves for the cause, for the king or whatever, for the country. And that gives you an idea of what this right effort truly is. You might always, instead of calling it right effort, call it right courage. The ability to sacrifice everything for the sake of truth. Because a lot of times people aren't courageous when it comes to finding out the truth. They go so far and they stay in their comfort zone. They're not allowed, they don't let themselves abandon everything. Like the hero soldier, they'll abandon their whole life. They won't hold anything back. Sacrifice everything for the cause, even their life. And that's the sort of courage one needs to find the truth. Holding nothing back. It's an interesting translation. It gives another sort of edge to what this thing is. Next question, do arahats laugh? I guess most Ajahn Chah disciples are very highly developed bodhisattvas who choose not to speak about it. Please comment. Yeah, arahats do laugh. That's why we call them arahats. Yeah, they do. Your esteemed, well, go and find out anyway. Your esteemed vast emptiness. No, I don't think it's not as good. Is that as good as the other one? It's getting out. We have a competition. Which one? Who wins? Curiosity would have to know where the other fellow beings hail from, aside from the womb. Those who have flown in from elsewhere, now sitting with us, waiting to go nowhere, arriving now where? Perhaps your emptiness could facilitate the disclosure sharing under appropriate now. Question, why curiosity ends the cat? What's the original and what or what's the Mahayana answer? Oh, curiosity. I told you what happened with curiosity, that story about the 4 doors that first night. And apparently I told that story the first night about the most wonderful sound in the world, and they couldn't actually know the answer to go through these 4 doors, because at first when he heard the sound, did you hear that story? Yeah. When he first heard the story, heard the sound, he went to the abbot and said, "What's that sound?" He said, "I can't tell you because you're not a monk." So the story became a monk, and then I just went on the rigmarole of going through all these 4 doors just to wind you up. And when you get wound up to the very end, you open the last gold door, and there it was. And you know what it was? And I tell you, I can't tell you because you're not monks. That's just showing what curiosity is. What is it? You don't have to know what it is. That's got nothing to do with the price of eggs, as they say. What do you want to know for? Just like sometimes people want to know, do monks wear anything under their robes? What's that got to do with you? It's just curiosity, that's all. So that's why curiosity, because the cat looked under the robes and got hit. No, it didn't. As much as I tried to welcome the humidity last night, it really kept me up. Wonderful! And the feeling of my skin being mauled by tiny biting insects was soon to be discovered that it was just my leg hairs growing long. People get very weird when they get all the more I got hardly any sleep because your legs hair were growing. I was so tired that... this is good. I was so tired today that I couldn't muster many thoughts at all. It was fantastic. So everyone, if you want the perfect meditation, just don't sleep. The reason why they didn't get any thoughts today was because they were sleeping in the meditation hall. Yeah, now look after yourself. But you can sleep at any time. If it is very hot, or just go into the bathrooms. The bathrooms are really cool, really nice. Dear Venerable Emptiness, the other day you used the term, the mind is getting stronger. What does that mean? And what is the weak mind? Other traditions speak about transcending the mind or reaching no mind. How does it all go together? Thank you. The stronger mind means more like stronger mindfulness. So the mindfulness gets stronger and stronger, and that means it's like turning up the lights in the room. Just before we do the chanting and it's really dark in here, you can't see very much, but when you turn the lights on, you can see so much. That's like mindfulness. It gets stronger, you can see much more. So that's what I meant by the mind getting stronger, the mindfulness getting stronger. And the weak mind is when you just can't see very much. And that weak mind is like a depressed mind as well. Because, you can't see the nice colors, everything is like pastel silhouettes, you get no happiness in life. So with energy, with strong mind, comes a lot of happiness as well. Other traditions speak about transcending the mind or reaching no mind. Okay, if they transcend the mind, not really transcending the mind, because it's ending the mind, not transcending the mind. In other words, coming to a cessation of mind. Transcending the mind, if you transcend the mind, there's no mind there, which means there's no consciousness, which you don't know what you're doing. You're totally unconscious. So if you want to transcend the mind, hit yourself over the head or take an anesthetic. And that's reaching no mind. If you really want to reach no mind, have a lobotomy. How does it all go together? You've got a mind. It's coming to understand what the mind is, not transcending it, not no mind, but just understanding what a mind is. Lobotomy, how do you know? No brain? Could be a mind. Okay. So how can you reach no mind? It's too difficult. You can't, except by parinirvana. Then there's no mind. It's all gone. Very good. Somebody asked me that once. No, it is like becoming an arahat the same as having a lobotomy. And it's not the case, because sometimes I thought that, is an arahat. Is it an arahat? It means they've got no emotions at all. They just sit there with a perfectly sort of horizontal mouth. And you come and say, I'm enlightened, and they just sit there. And you come there and say, no, I'm going to kill you, and they just sit there. If they were, it's like a zombie, it's like a robot. And it's very nice actually to see real enlightened beings and to see, yeah, they can, sometimes it just, you can't notice what they are. That's why there was the story of the 4 things you should always be careful of. Because there was this little novice in the time of the Buddha, Sumana, and he was perfectly enlightened with all these psychic powers. But because he was this small little novice, the monks would tease him, sometimes knock him on the head and get him to do all these duties. And when the Buddha saw the monk knock him on the head, no teasing him because he was only a small kid, he called a meeting of all the monks and said, always be careful of the 4 small things. A small fire, because that could be a big bushfire. A small snake, because there may be a baby snake, but they've got full venom, they can actually kill you. A small prince. There may only be a little prince, but if they eventually become the king, they remember what you did to them, and then they will take revenge. They've got power. And the last one is a small novice, a small monk or a small nun. You don't know the power they've got. So be careful. Don't knock the nuns on the head. Not you do that anyway. So that's, sometimes you just don't know who's who, what's going on. What was that question anyway? No. Anyway, what was actually the question anyway about that? Small things. You've forgotten too. Dementia is contagious. Dear Ajahn Brahm, please tell us a story about a dying man and his 4 wives. Oh, that story. That is a story of the dying man and his 4 wives, because you asked that question last night, but I told another story. There was once this man who had 4 wives. This was enough. People actually still have 4 wives in some countries. This was a while ago. And he loved his wives very much, and he thought his wives loved him. You know what men are like, just totally stupid and never really face the truth. But anyway, women are the same. But anyway, he had his 4 wives, and he was on his deathbed, and he started to think that when he dies, he'd miss his wives. So he called in his youngest wife, his 4th wife, the wife he'd married at the very end of his life. And she was incredibly beautiful, really a young floozy. And, well, I shouldn't use that word, but anyway, like a really young girl. Very, very attractive. And she was so attractive that, he got all these invitations to these, A-list events and parties and receptions. And she gave him entry to these places. And he only got her later on in his life. And he called her in and said, darling, you love me, don't you? He said, yeah, I love you very much. And he said, I love you. I'm about to die. I'll miss you. Will you come with me into death? Will you die with me? He said, no way. I'm not going to die with you. He said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. At your funeral, and afterwards, I'll say really nice things about you. That's all I'll do. But you said you love me, and you go anywhere with me. Yeah, not into death, come on. And so, get out of here, you don't really love me. If you really love me, you go wherever I go. So he threw her out of the room and asked for his 3rd wife to come in. And his 3rd wife was also really, really attractive, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry, and actually many men coveted her even more than the 4th wife. And she made many, many things possible for him in life. Gave him a lot of comfort, a nice house, everything. And he said to her as well, darling, do you love me? He said, yes, I love you. I love you too, said the dying man. He said, I've been thinking, when I die, I'll miss you. Will you come with me into death? She said, no way. I am not going with you into death. After you die, I'm going with your son. What? I'm not even dead yet, and you're already telling me about adultery. Get out of here. And she said, well, look, before I go, I will get you an expensive funeral. That's not good enough. Get out. And then brought in his second wife. And his second wife wasn't really attractive. But she was one of these women who was really kind. It was always there for him. And any sort of difficulties or problem, he would always go to her. She was, the real support in his life. And so he asked her, darling, he said, look, I'm going to die soon. Will you come with me into death? And she looked at him with tears and said, if I could, I would. But I can't, so I won't. So I'll come to your graveside. That's as far as I can come. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Get out, he said. And he had one wife left. His very, very first wife. He couldn't even remember when he didn't know that wife. He's been together for so long. And he called her in. And he'd actually neglected her a lot, especially with the third and fourth wife, the beautiful ones. So she was a bit shabby and neglected. But she was really the power behind his happiness. You never appreciate the people who mean the most to you and who help you the most. So he called in his first wife. He'd been married a long time. He said, darling, I'm going to die soon. I'll miss you. Will you come with me into death? She said, sure, I will. I always go with you wherever you go. That's why my name is Mrs. Karma. Wherever you go, I go with you. But not like your second wife, Mrs. Family. She really helps you and is there for you. And she can go as far as the graveside, but no more. As for your third wife, Mrs. Wealth, after you die, she'll go with your son. Your fourth wife, Mrs. Fame, that's the one you get last of all in your life. They don't go with you into your next life. They just say nice things about you at your funeral. That's all. But of your four wives or your four husbands, the only one who will go with you is not your family, not your wealth or your fame, only Mr. and Mrs. Karma. That's the story of the four wives. One is encouraged to let go in order to get free, but karma follows you anyway, so how can you get rid of the past? Karma, as I said, is just the ingredients which you have to work with in life. And it's what you do with those ingredients is the most important. And you can do anything. Anybody can just about can become enlightened. So it doesn't matter what karma you've got, you can still let go. And in particular, with letting go of this karma business, you have got so much karma, so much bad karma, inexhaustible bad karma, inexhaustible good karma over all your lifetimes. But why do you choose to keep bringing up the bad karma? And I mentioned that carefully. Why do you choose? Conditioned to choose. When you become a stream winner, you let go of a whole heap of bad karma. You terminate the bank account. And each one of you got so much good karma. Why don't you access that? Your good karma bank account is huge, but you've forgotten the PIN number, which is why you can't access it. And I give you the PIN number, just remembering all your good stuff. Collecting the eggs, not the shit. I've told you that in one of these talks many, many times. That's actually accessing your good karma. Remembering all the wonderful, beautiful things which you've done. That accesses the good karma. There's heaps of that. Why do people always keep remembering the bad stuff? They don't remember the good stuff. Why don't they accept the praise when it comes? They only accept the criticism. If you understand how to accept the praise, how to remember all the wonderful things which have happened to you, you understand what the PIN number is to access your huge resources of good karma. So it follows you, but you don't have to access it. How to get the liberating insight after a jhana. I've told you don't get it. You let go of things. See how much you can let go of after a jhana. And then you go in, you see in, there's nothing left. It all vanishes. Poof. Then you're liberated. You're liberated from yourself. You are the problem. It's like this, letting go. It's like, have you ever been in a hot air balloon? It's like going into a hot air balloon and you go really, really high. But you need to go higher. You've got the jhanas, but you need to go higher. So what do? So you look in the balloon, in the basket, to see what they call the ballast. You throw as much out of the balloon, of the basket, as you possibly can, to see how high you can go. And obviously, the more you throw out, the higher you become, the closer to enlightenment. And you throw so much out, and you look around, and there's nothing else to throw out. And you think, I'm not high enough yet. I've got nimitta stage, but I'm not jhanas yet. What should I do? And then you get the great insight. Throw out the basket. So you untie the basket, and you're just holding onto the balloon. Then you get really high. That's called jhanas. The basket is your body. So your body is a basket case. You all know that. So you throw out the basket, and there you are holding onto the balloon. And that's called the jhanas. No body, just the mind. Now how can you go further? And look, there's nothing else to throw out. And then you finally realize, yes, me. You throw you out. No self. And then the balloon goes all the way to Nibbana. Nibbana is, but not the person who enters it. That's a nice simile. Everything is dukkha because it's anicca. Can you explain this? Thought is dukkha because it's like a rotten apple. Everything is dukkha because it's anicca. It's unreliable. So you come on this retreat and you think, Ajahn Brahm says you can get jhana, and it's unreliable. You try and become enlightened and you can't. It's unreliable. All the things which should happen, it's unreliable. We should have had water and showers on the first couple of days. It's unreliable. You want to get some nice talks and some really deep Dhamma, and you just get jokes. It's unreliable. You see, it's dukkha. Whenever you expect anything, it's always something else. That's suffering. So what do? You don't expect anything. We don't expect anything, you're satisfied. Aren't you happy being here? You expected something, that's why you're not. So everything is dukkha because it's anicca, yes. So that's what happens. It's unreliable, it keeps on changing, it's never the same. And suddenly you get peaceful, it doesn't last. Oh, it's unfair. So whatever is changing, it's never good enough. And the most important thing is the nature of happiness and suffering. Because I was actually really interested in what actually is happiness. And for me, a lot of times the happiest times, which I knew as a layperson, was like, when I left school. The last day at school, I was free, yeah! I was just so happy. And or, you left your job and you go on holiday, yeah, amazing. And then I started realizing that everything I knew as happiness was just when a lot of suffering had ended. You were so happy when you left school because a great deal of suffering had ended. You were so happy when you got well after being in hospital because a huge amount of suffering had ended. And I realized a lot of the happiness in life was just when suffering had ended. And the more suffering I'd experienced before, the more happy I was. I remember seeing supporters of football teams. They just won the cup. They were just so happy. Like the Sri Lankan team who won the World Cup. They were so happy. You know why they were so happy? Because all those years of suffering when they lost. The more they lose, then when they win, the more happy they are. Here in Perth, we've got this I'll be careful what I say here, this football team called the Fremantle Dockers, which never win anything. It's true, isn't it? Something like that, they always lose. But they have so much suffering. So when that team actually does win a grand final, they'll be ecstatic. The reason why? Because of all the years they've lost. The more years they lose, the higher the happiness is. Have you ever noticed that the happiness of life is measured by the pain of the suffering which has just disappeared. And when you get your head around that, you get to have a handle on this happiness-suffering business. And all the suffering is a measure of the happiness which has just disappeared. If a lot of happiness, really real happiness, and suddenly it's gone, that is very hard suffering. Happiness is just a pause between moments of suffering, and suffering is a pause between moments of happiness. You can't have one without the other. Understanding that, the idea of this heaven realm, which I learned in Christianity, it made absolutely no sense at all. It was impossible. You can't always have happiness in heaven. You just get used to it. You won't be happy at all. Just the same old ambrosia. Ambrosia for breakfast, ambrosia for lunch, ambrosia for dinner. After a few centuries of that, you get fed up to the teeth with ambrosia. And harp music. Harp music is very, very nice. But day in, day out, many centuries, you get really pissed off with harp music. And these white clothes. Really, really boring. Now, can't you have some nice designs and fashion? Some Gucci or Versace or something, so these white robes. It's really, really boring. Because you can see that there's no way you can have happiness ever after. No way at all. You wouldn't be happy anymore. And even in a hell realm, one day it's slightly less suffering. They turn the temperature down 1 degree. Oh, this is so lovely. Oh, this is really, really good. So when you understand that, you understand the pursuit of happiness in that world is impossible. It's futile. Whatever happiness you have, the more happiness you have when it ends, you pay for that with suffering. It also means you don't have to worry when you're suffering. It has to end. When it does end, you're happy. I remember reading a book, a very amazing book. I used to read lots of books when I was young. I don't read so much these days. It was called Prisoner Without a Name, Cell Without a Number, by an Argentinian journalist who was imprisoned by the junta in Argentina about 20, 30 years ago. And because he had friends in the United States, they searched for him, they found him, he was released, and he told the tale of what it was like to be taken in the middle of the night and put in these underground torture chambers. And the part of the story which was really interesting was when his torturers gave him a letter from his wife. And he said, when he wrote the book, he told his wife, if I do disappear, and I go into these underground torture places, never ever write to me. Please never do that. And she never followed his instructions. She wrote to him. And that made the torture so much more painful. After weeks and months, he got used to it. Yeah, it was pain, but it was almost constant, recurrent. But when he got that letter from his wife, just the memories, the wonderful memories of his family life and freedom were up there. And that gave him a contrast to his life in the torture cells. That was unbearable. He said, if ever that ever happens, don't ever write. Because the contrast, the happiness you remember, and now the pain, was almost unbearable. And that's why torture does need the contrast. If it's pain, 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 it may have any effect. You have the happiness, and then the disappointment. That is torture. Very powerful story. Anyway, dear Grandpa Brahm. Ooh. Dear Grandpa Brahm, although you are the same age as my dad, you are more like a grandfather to me. The difference between you and my grandpa in this lifetime is that he is always telling me to eat, eat, eat. And you're almost telling us to let go, let go, let go. I guess it balances out for me. So when you want to eat, you go and see your grandpa. When you need to let go, you come and see me. Anyway, Ajahn, you talked about muti as the way of letting go. Can you please tell us more about the other 3 ways? Thank you very much. I just mentioned one way, which is throwing things out, similar to the balloon. And one of the other ways of letting go, of the 4 ways, is actually generosity. But I don't mean just giving money or giving time. The most important part of chaga, generosity and letting go, is giving, expecting nothing back in return. You know, in some temples and churches, people give these donations and they want to see their name on the board. This big row of people, who gave what and how much. Or sometimes they give a lot of money. They actually want their name on the hall. This is Dr. Chandra De Silva's meditation hall, sponsored. That is not generosity. That is buying advertising rights for your ego. And that's actually what people sometimes do. They give expecting acknowledgement. That's not giving, that's business. Real giving is giving, expecting nothing back in return. And that is the key to letting go. So you give all your time and energy to this meditation, expecting nothing back in return. If you expect something back after this retreat, at least nimitta, please, then that's not letting go, is it? That's just doing spiritual business, spiritual materialism. So real letting go is giving, expecting nothing back in return. It's a very hard thing to do. But if you do that, it's absolutely beautiful. There's 1 or 2 days to go. It's hopeless. You're not going to get anywhere. So give up. Just carry on meditating, expecting nothing back in return. And then you get the jhanas. When you expect something, you do it to try and get something back. That's spiritual materialism. Letting go is giving, expecting nothing back. Just like you give to your kids. I don't expect anything. I just enjoy giving to the kids. Just like, you know, when your son comes along to visit, you just want, or daughter, you just want to feed them. You don't want anything back. Just give me your mouth and your tummy, and I want to put food in it. That's all Mum wants to do. So they give expecting nothing back in return. That's a beautiful part of being a mother or a father or a sort of grandparent. It's what I do. I don't expect anything back in return. I did in the early days, but now I give up. So you give expecting nothing back in return for the sake of giving. That's letting go. And the last way of letting go, analiya, again, I mentioned that earlier, like it's nothing sticks to you, like being the lotus leaf. Nice meditation, it just rolls off. Stupid meditation, it rolls off. Nothing sticks to you. All the past vanishes. You're like a lotus leaf. You carry nothing in this life. You're like the birds. Birds never carry suitcases. You know, they fly from country to country, they migrate halfway around the world. And I've watched birds migrating. I've never seen them with a backpack on. They leave their past and they go to their future carrying no burdens. So you be like a bird. You carry nothing. That's the 4th way of letting go. Your Excellency Ajahn Brahm, any tips for how I can use my meditation to help me party like a diva while being a good 5-precept Buddhist? Yeah. It's just you let go. But sometimes you've got to be very careful what you let go of, because there was this guy here in Perth and he was keeping his 5 precepts. Now, and 5th precept is not taking alcohol. And so he went to a party once and he told me, he said, it's just so difficult. Because he went to a party and when they brought the alcohol around, and he said, no, I can't take alcohol anymore, I'm a Buddhist. And the person serving the alcohol said, oh, you're a Buddhist. I know about Buddhism. It's a great religion. Well done. Buddhism teaches all about letting go. Come on, let go and have a drink. They're letting go of the wrong thing. We know he solved that problem because then he found another way of actually keeping his precepts. Because the peer pressure was so great. Have a drink, let go. And he eventually had a drink. So he found another way. He told me that next time he went to a party or a reception, and they brought the tray of drinks around, he said, no, I'm sorry, I can't drink. He never said he was a Buddhist. He said, I can't drink because of doctor's orders. Because, sometimes you have medical conditions, you can't take alcohol. And they never even questioned him then. Oh, okay, sorry, have some orange juice. They let him get away with not drinking, and they respected him. Doctor's orders. You've got to look after your body. He said that really worked. And when he came and told me that, I said, hang on a minute. You're perfectly healthy, I know that. You're lying. You are keeping one precept and breaking another. And that's when he said, no, Ajahn Brahm. He said, it is doctor's orders. Because in the sutras, the Buddha compared himself to a doctor. It was doctor's orders, Dr. Buddha's orders, not to drink. So that's how we did, is let it go. So it is, I mean, the teaching I've given you here, when there's nothing to do nothing. When there's everything to do, give it everything you've got. So if you're in the lay world, if you're partying, give it everything you've got. Enjoy it, and have no self. You know what happens, in sort of parties, and you sort of, sometimes people get so self-conscious, they can't enjoy themselves. So lose your sense of self. So you can be anything. You can be stupid, you can be sort of serious, you can be anything you like. And when you're partying, give it everything you've got. When it's time to meditate, everything you've got. When it's working, work everything you've got. Sleeping, everything you've got. And then we can have a really great life. Dear Brahm, when there is nothing out there, why are we still here doing all the mind work? Thank you for being kind to us. Exactly. Why are you here? I don't know. It's to realize there's nowhere to be. So the reason why you're here is because everyone has to be somewhere. You just happen to be here. That's the answer. That's very deep. Ajahn, what role do you think routine or ritual plays when meditating at home? E.g., same place, same time, same length of time. Thank you. Is meditating on a full stomach a good idea? Meditating on a fat cushion is a good idea. On a fat stomach, maybe not. But routine or ritual plays when meditating at home. So I know what it's like sometimes, that people find it very difficult to get time to meditate. That's why getting a routine is quite helpful, at home, because when you get a routine, this is the time I meditate. So you set yourself that time. It means you put time aside for meditating, which is quite helpful. But as somebody told me here, it's a very nice quote, and thank you, I forget who told it to me. They said they had this fellow who meditates half an hour every day, except when he's busy. When he's busy, he meditates 1 hour a day. Isn't that a very nice saying? Because they need to meditate much more when you're busy, because you need to get more done. You need to have stronger mindfulness and more efficiency. So routine sometimes helps to meditate at home. Same place, same time. If it's the same place especially, you've got your little meditation place. That really does help. For those of you who've gone over to Bodhinyana Monastery and sat meditation in that hall over there, you will probably notice, like most people do, that that is a very powerful hall. It's got incredible energy. Much more so than here, because we've only been meditating here a couple of years. And that hall over there is 28 years of really nice meditation. And it really does have an effect on it. People notice that, even people who aren't Buddhists notice how powerful that hall is. So if you meditate in the same place, day after day, week after week, year after year, it does actually build up energy. And so that's a place which you can go to, place in your house, your little meditation corner. It really is helpful. I'll say more about that in the last day. Do you still get into jhanas regardless of how busy you are? Do you experience patches of no jhana days? What other factors affect the quality of jhanas? I'm not allowed to tell you, because it's the 8th Pachittiya. I get into big trouble if I tell you the answer to that question. So you depersonalize it and say, a monk who knows how to get into jhanas can get into jhanas, but it's all cause and effect. If you're very busy or you're sick, it's much more difficult. In the same way, jhanas is like stopping a vehicle. If you're trying to stop one of these big road trains in Australia, 2 or 3 trailers in the back going 120 kilometers an hour down the big highways, they put on the brakes. It takes a long time to stop. So if you, or if a monk or any teacher has been really working hard and you stop, it takes a long time to stop. But if you've been riding a bicycle, you can put the brakes on, you can stop almost immediately. So there is that cause and effect. Yeah, you know where the brakes are, you know how to stop. But if you've been doing a lot, it takes more time to stop. That's the answer. Dear Ajahn, let's be honest. Why? Getting a jhana is like striking a lottery. No, it's not. Actually, you've won the lottery already. You're here in Jhana Grove Retreat Center. So you're in Jhana Grove. Getting a jhana is like striking a lottery. If you participate, you have a chance, but I hope nobody is as naive as me, since I almost killed all my brain cells trying to get a jhana within the last few days. Gee, how many brain cells have you got left? Now I'm like a zombie without a brain, still trying strong. You crazy person. Just let go. Is this your third trip to Hong Kong? I'm not in Hong Kong, I'm here. That's actually next week, I think, if I get there. How do you find Hong Kong people? I just go there and they find me. Very... Come on, you ask stupid questions, you get stupid answers. Various lesson tense, or every place the people are the same. Actually, every place people are the same. Have a nice trip there. P.S. I was from Hong Kong. I can not breathe the air there to back Perth, sick for a whole week. I take care. So I'll take some air with me. The flame of craving and desire has gone out. Now what? If you ask a question, now what? The flame of craving and desire has not gone out. I know, this is profound. Does a spaceship come and take me back home? No, the space is you. So the space envelops you. It's not a spaceship. That you enter space. You are the spaceman, the spacewoman. The space gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you vanish into inner space. So you are the alien. I don't know. Dear Ajahn, whilst I understood your point last night on fear of the ego, can you explain where humility comes in, as I see this quality as a positive one? I know all about humility, so I'm the expert on where humility actually in Buddhism is not a good quality. It's amazing. Because the Buddha taught the three conceits. The three conceits are, I am better than other people. Now you know that's pride. We all know that that's not a very nice thing. The second of the conceits is, I am worse than other people, which is what most people think is humility. I'm not as good as other people. That also is a conceit. That is wrong view. That is stupidity. That's why this humility business, which is actually praised by Christianity, which has come into our culture, don't praise yourself. Don't put yourself forward. Don't think of yourself as good. Leads to so much lack of self-esteem that people have problems. Lack of confidence, lack of esteem, thinking we're hopeless, we're not good enough. That type of humility, which comes from Western cultures. It's not there in Asian cultures. I don't know if it's Christianity or if it's just Western culture, where it comes from, but it's there. And when that comes up about, I am worse, or I'm not good enough, or I'm hopeless, I'm a sinner, I'm awful, that type of humility is very negative, and it has no part in Buddhism. And also, I am the same, which is another type of conceit. Not better, not worse, not the same, just unique. That's very beautiful. So humility is comparing yourself to other people. Being unique is respecting yourself. And now you just cannot compare. You are beyond comparison. To Ajahn, I am absolutely amazed at the posture of some people on this retreat as they meditate. This is definitely one of my biggest hindrances, as no matter whether I am sitting on a cushion, stand on a chair, my back always feels uncomfortable and I find myself moving around. Some of these people are almost twice my age and they just seem to sit there seemingly effortlessly and without strain, and only with divine grace. I know that you are used to sitting, Ajahn, but could you demonstrate some stretches that are helpful? The best stretch for you is get a rope, tie it around your neck, oh, stretch the back. Now don't do that, I'll get in trouble again. For you, see if you can do what we call meditating flat out. You know what meditating flat out is? Get in your bed and stretch. Oh, that's beautiful. See if you can try lying down meditation. Now, seriously, lying down meditation, if you want to try that, you've really got a bad back, you're not getting anywhere, and your body's really stiff. Go into your room. Don't lie on your bed. Because if you lie on your bed, you'll turn over and go to sleep. Because that's what beds are for. Lie on the floor somewhere. You can get some blankets or something to make it a bit soft. Lie on the floor and see if you can lie in a posture you don't usually go to sleep in. So I always go to sleep on my side. So if I want to do lying down meditation, I lie on my back because I don't usually go to sleep on my back. I've got trained to go to sleep on my side. So what that means is, psychologically, my mind knows I'm on my back. So it knows, no, he doesn't want me to go to sleep, he wants me to meditate. But if I'm on my side, my mind thinks, oh, he wants me to go to sleep, so I go to sleep. So lie down comfortably, but not in the position you fall asleep. And then you can have a nice body stretch, nice and comfortable, and you can meditate without any physical pain. So try that. Ajahn, why does the Buddha arise in the world? Ask him. Not my problem. Is it a function of probability, i.e. with an infinite number of beings trying different ways to end suffering, one eventually gets it right, or is it something deeper? Now this is controversial, but I think this is pretty true, that when say a once-returner arises in the world, this is their last life, and there's no other Aryas around, they become a Buddha, or a Pacceka Buddha. So basically, eventually, when there's no other teachers around, it just restarts the whole of the teachings again. Because a once-returner gets reborn, they have to get enlightened in this life. They get enlightened, and they'll either teach or they won't teach. And if it's the first of the series, then that becomes a Buddha. The first enlightened being of a series of enlightened beings. Because eventually that Buddhism dies out, and then it comes back again. Then it sort of dies again, and then comes back again. Now this is a very serious question. I just got to say, the food is bloody great. I thought it was vegetarian. Is it bloody? No, this means very well done to, where is she? To Bianca? Oh, okay. I too have dribbled within the great hall of meditations. I fear if I had dribbled, I could have been sleeping. If I was sleeping, I might have been snoring. If I was snoring, I should be apologizing. Sorry about that. Back to dribbling. At the Armadale Meditation Group, we once had a nun as our weekly teacher. On the topic of dribble, she imparted these wise words. One reason for adopting good posture whilst meditating is to ensure the dribble runs back down the throat and not into your lap. She was a wise old nun. That's why I told you. Meditate upside down. Then it goes down your throat and not into your lap. Can you meditate on your head? Don't try that. No, dribble happens. So if it happens, just basically, the serious thing is don't worry about it. Because if you worry about it, more saliva comes out. You just swallow and swallow and swallow. It's only a few swallows, and then it stops and you forget about it. When you're watching the TV, do you dribble? Of course you don't. So it just becomes this, almost fear. I fear I'm going to dribble. Then you do dribble. Just forget about it. Are there any advantages meditating with others? Thank you. Actually, seriously, yeah. if they're really good meditators, not dribblers, but really good meditators. No, it's okay to dribble. If you're actually meditating with really good meditators, sometimes it happens, you pick up on their energies, and they're very peaceful, you become peaceful. Because I've just noticed that there are times when I've got really, really good meditations in Bodhinyana, and other monks get good meditations the same night. It's as if, you create a sort of like an energy field, and other people pick up on it. So yes, sometimes you get some good meditators, it works. Your emptiness. I really like the idea that sex is very unpleasant. And please spread it to the world. In that case, my chances of reborn would be reduced too. That's a good point, isn't it? It's really weird me saying that, because that is one of the most heretical things you could ever say. And if I went on to the... What's this over here? Oh, jhana air. They got jhana air. This is not a question. They got jhana air on here, so this takes people in the bath. But I like challenging things, because that's something which no one dares to say, that sex is unpleasant. I say, you must be crazy, you're really weird. You're really sort of, need to go and see a psychiatrist or something, saying things like that, because there's assumptions we have. And I love challenging assumptions. During the war, this must be a story or a joke or something. During the war, a plane is shot by a gun and one of its engines stops working. It slowly starts losing altitude. So the pilot announces that the soldiers need to choose one to jump out. But unfortunately, there are no parachutes left on the plane, just enough for the pilots. So this devout Christian soldier decides to jump out, to sacrifice himself. And when he jumps out, he cries out, "For all Christians!" So far, so good. And the plane maintains its altitude before again heading to ground to crash. The pilots make a similar announcement again, and this time a Muslim soldier is about to sacrifice himself and jumps out crying out, "For all Muslims!" That's good. The plane flies safely for another 5 minutes, almost close to the airport, just before another announcement is being made. They need one last soldier to jump out, as the plane is too heavy and might not make it to the airport. So this devout Buddhist starts chanting, looks at his fellow soldiers, takes 3 deep breaths. It's got PTO. I don't know this punchline. This is really exciting. The Buddhist starts chanting, looks at his fellow soldiers, takes 3 deep breaths, grabs a Jewish soldier and throws him out, saying, "For all Jewish people." That's not compassionate. Okay. I'll tell this other joke. Yeah, okay. This, I think it was a Hindu told me this joke. It's this. No, I better not tell it. It's really, I'll get into big trouble. This goes on the internet.
We can edit it out.
They've got it all wrong, Ajahn. He with the most toys loses. Yeah, do lose. Okay, he with the most toys. And that must be. Was that the story of the 5 kids? He with the most toys loses. Yeah, well, yeah. I hope so. Oh no, here we go, there's another jokes. A bear and a rabbit are taking a shit in the woods. After a moment, the bear turns to the rabbit and says, "Excuse me, rabbit, but can I ask," I know this one, yeah. "Does shit stick to your fur?" The rabbit, a little puzzled, looks up at the bear, down at his backside and back up to the bear and proclaims proudly, "Well, no, bear, shit does not stick to my fur." So the bear wiped his backside with the rabbit. That's not very nice. Okay, now the rabbit gets his revenge. This is a story of the bear, the rabbit, and the magic duck. This is a funny story. This bear was chasing the rabbit and chasing him backwards and forwards, and it was really making a noise in the forest. And they managed to be running past the lake where the magic duck lived. And the magic duck said, "You two chasing each other, it's really giving me a headache. Stop! And if you agree to stop chasing each other, I'll give you 3 wishes each." Gives the magic duck. And so the bear and the rabbit looked at each other and said, "Okay, let's take some wishes." And so the bear said, "I'm the biggest, I'm the best, I'll get the first wish." And so he told the magic duck, "My wish, being a male bear, may all the bears in this whole forest all be female, and I am the only male. Then I get no competition." You know what men are like. So he said, "Is that what you want?" And he said, "Yes." So the magic duck went quack, and all the bears in the forest became female. He was the only male. And then they asked the rabbit, "What's your wish?" And he said, "I want a crash helmet, a motorcycle crash helmet." And I said, "What do you want to know for?" He said, "Look, it's none of your business. You gave me 3 wishes. I want a crash helmet." Okay. Quack. And a crash helmet appeared on the rabbit. You see that rabbit? Imagine that crash helmet on Mooty. And then the second wish for the bear. And the bear would say, "Look, I've just been thinking, when all the other male bears in the country hear there's only female bears up here, they'll all migrate and they'll spoil my fun. So my second wish, may all the bears in the whole country be female, and I'm the only male." Okay, quack. And amazing, all the bears in the whole country were all female. He was the only male bear in the whole country. And they asked the rabbit, "What's your next wish?" He said, "I want a Harley Davidson 1200 to go with my crash helmet." Okay, I suppose that makes sense. You've got a crash helmet, you need a bike to go with it. Quack! And this immaculate Harley appeared. And the rabbit got on his new Harley, and revved it up. Oh, it's really nice, And then they asked the bear, "For your third wish." And the bear said, "No, I should have really thought about this at first. I've just been thinking. When all the bears in the other lands overseas, here there's only females in this country, they'll all get in a boat or swim or something. You know what bears are like. So my third wish, may all the bears in this whole world, this whole planet Earth, may all the bears all be female, and I am the only male bear." Quack! And it was a miracle. He was the only male bear on the whole of planet Earth. And he was so happy. And then they asked the rabbit, "What's your third wish?" And he was on his Harley, revving up to make a quick getaway. He said, "My third wish is that Mr. Bear is gay." You see, so the rabbit gets his revenge. Okay. Can you please sit with us for 15 minutes after the Q&A tonight? No. It's just too much fun. Last question. Why does one thought, let alone all the rest of them, seem so real, with so much emotion attached to each thought? It's because you give them value and worth. You make them important. You give them emotional impact instead of thinking they're just thoughts, that's all. So if you actually see them for what they really are, just like I said, the onions go on and on with an eye in the middle, but there's nothing in there. It's just like a little bubble. Pop. And there's no reality there. That's all they are. So you see, we did end on a serious question. But do you remember the serious answer? No, you only remember the jokes about the bears. So anyway, thank you all for listening to those questions. Okay, 3 sergeants.